Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In the last lesson, if I can remember correctly, because it's admittedly been a little while, duty called, we started adding aiming to the game. In this video, I want to add just one feature to that. So if we hop in our game and we grab a weapon, or any one of these honestly, and we zoom or we aim, you'll notice that the camera is a little far back. That is a little bit hard to see. So what we can do is we can change our field of view. We can push this camera in a little bit if we're aiming or not and make that look a little bit more dynamic. In the last video, I did encounter one issue and I solved that rather quickly. Went into our enemy. If you, this is our calculate damage function that is called in the event graph right here. So what you can do is you can pull out of this calculated damage like I did and print a string. So every time you shoot a weapon, it'll give you that damage back. And the silly mistake that I made was on this physics asset here, I made the head think that it was a hand. So that's why I was pumping out small numbers. But you see, I have my pistol set to 20, and if I shoot, it does 20, 16, 14, 6, 10, and then 4. So I was doing 4 damage on the head before, and that was awkward. That's not what we wanted. So an easy way to fix that if you are encountering something like that, just go ahead and select the enemy. You can go to that asset by hitting this button, open up our physics asset, and just make sure that you check that these are correct. So what I did is I had neck and head set to hand and not head because they look similar. So it was doing 4 damage before. So that's an easy way to fix that and make sure that you have the right physics assets set in. So that was really the only issue that I wanted to make sure was fixed. That might be another thing that you probably didn't even encounter, but I did. So let's just move on. So let's open up the weapon base, and we're going to make one new variable, and we're going to call this, not fire rate. I'm looking at fire rate right now. Field of view. We'll call it actually aim field of view because there's a variable built in called field of view. We'll make it of a float. Then we want to open up our character component like this because we're going to need our camera. And we want to do this inside of a function. So let's create a new function and we'll call this aim field of view. We can give it the same name. First things first, let's go ahead and get is aiming. And we want to check to make sure if we're aiming or not. We only want this to happen if we're aiming. Let's go ahead and grab our camera. We're going to actually get 2 of these. Just going to do something off the true and something off of the false. And so let's say set field of view for both of these. So if you, oh gosh, I think if we select on the camera and we go into, we can just search it up, field of view, it's set to 90. So we're going to change that. So at 90, the bigger the number, the further back it's going to look. So a lot of people that play PC games are like, gotta make that field of view real wide, extra wide. And so that's the number that they're changing when you do that in your settings. So we want to push this camera in a little bit further. We're going to dynamically set that. Okay, so we're going to need the camera again, and we're going to need to get that field of view variable, which is set to 90. I think you can maybe change that. And we don't want this to just snap to this new field of view. We want it to interpolate. So we're going to get a f interp for float interp, and I have described before what interpolation means. Then we're going to get our current weapon. This is why I almost don't like putting things in categories, because I gotta like figure out, oh gosh, where the heck did I put this? And we want to get that aim field of view. So our normal field of view is the current. We want to move to the target, which is what we will set. So I stored this variable in the weapon parent so that we can always keep calling back to that and dynamically change that depending on whichever weapon we have. For interp speed, let's just set it to be 10. You can change this to whatever you want off your personal preference. Just know that if it is set to 0, it will snap there immediately. Then we're going to get world delta seconds for our delta time. It's pretty normal there. All right. And then we're going to copy and paste this. And so the only thing that we're going to do, well, let's go ahead and, you know what? Let's just set this to be 90. So if you want to change your field of view's default value, you can promote this to a variable by all means. But I'm not changing it from 90, so I'm just going to hard set it back to 90. Okay, so this is essentially just running if we're not aiming. So the current is 90, and we're moving to 90. That's another way of saying we're not doing anything. And then we're going to return this one for the field of view if we are aiming. Like that. Oh, it's beautiful. And then we can say changes, let's be fancy, FOV. If aiming weapon, like such, beautiful. Like that. Wonderful. Compile, save, do whatever you gotta do. Now let's go back to our weapon base, and we're going to be in the event graph if you're not already there. And let's just go into said open space, and we're gonna wanna run this off of event tick. If you remember, event tick is like void update. It runs every frame or every second. Well, technically that's not the same exact thing. Let's just say every frame, okay? Be professional over here. Let's grab our player, and we wanna run this event every single frame. Aim field of view. We want to be checking, okay, are we aiming all the time? So we can change that field of view. So for default, for this field of view, let's actually set it to a default of 70. So just know the lower number you set it as, the further it's going to push inward, the more it's going to zoom. Like that. I'm just going to leave that there for now. So since this is set to 70, you should actually see this. So if I grab our auto rifle, and you can see now it zooms in and zooms back out like that. And if you notice, you might have had some sort of clipping issue with the weapon, and since this zooms the camera in, it'll actually fix that. So if I were to do something goofy like make it 30, and you wanted some sort of, let's say you got like a 4x scope on your gun, then it's gonna make it really, that doesn't look too bad. It's kind of cool in a way, but that is the effect that we're going for, like that. But I'm gonna set it to 70. I think that's a little bit less ridiculous. So you can go ahead and hop into any of these weapons and change this so you can make the pistol maybe zoom a little bit more. Our rocket launcher does that sort of weird clipping thing. I'll show you how to fix that, but just know it will require many steps. So if you go into the project settings, and just go to near, type that in, you'll see near clip plane. If you set this to be a lower number, like 5 or something, that will probably get rid of that clipping that you're seeing. It will come with a trade-off, meaning that things, if I remember this correctly, things out in the distance aren't necessarily going to load as far out because the clipping plane is closer to the camera now. So do with that as you would like. This is a free country I live in. You can do what you want. Just know that if you change that setting, unlike many other settings in here, you're gonna have to close down your program, then open back up your Unreal Editor to actually see those changes. So it can be pretty tedious. And you will probably need to change your X, Y, and Z offsets as well. Because that might get, it's not gonna get altered, it'll just like look a little bit different if that clipping plane changes. So just some things to keep in mind, but yeah, go ahead and go into the different weapons and see which type of zoom levels you want. But yeah, that all works. It's all looking good. So that's all I got for this video. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.